Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of the Club Fitting Chronicles podcast. My name is Joshua Jack. Joining me here today is my co-host, Mr. Gene Bonk. How are you, Gene?
I'm doing well, and I got to give a shout out to Sammy and Emma, my two grandkids who didn't think Papa was smart enough to do a podcast.
That's great. That's awesome. All right, guys. Well, today's topic is how you get golf clubs. And we're going to go into that a little bit here. But first, I want to give you guys our contact information. If you guys have any feedback or questions that we could talk about in the podcast, you are more than welcome to email us at clubfittingchronicles@gmail.com. And we will answer your questions to the best of our ability. And if you guys want to be into the podcast, we can most definitely make that happen. Now, let's go into today's topic. So there's a pro and con list of where you get your golf clubs. Gene, I want you to talk a little bit about what you have in store for us today.
Okay, so at ADS Golf, I would have people coming in all the time, and they would have a variety, and I'm going to go through a list. And if you look at the description for this week's episode, you'll see some of those in that list. Things like, my game is described with one word: inconsistent. But I'm a good athlete. But my golf game, I am totally inconsistent. Or I hit some clubs in my bag well, but I don't hit other clubs well. Why? Or sometimes it was things like, I think I should be seeing better results than because of my ability level than what I'm seeing. And so as a result, I think I might need new clubs. Or I hit my old clubs better than I'm hitting these, and these were fit to me. Why? What's going on? Probably one of the most common ones was things like, I played 2 to 5 holes in the round and it looks like I should be on tour. And then the next hole, it looks like I've never played the game before. I can't hit a ball to save my life. And I don't know what happened, what's different. Sometimes it's I play better at the end of the round than I do at the beginning of the round, or I play better at the beginning of the round, or I play better when I don't sleep well. And when I get a really good night's sleep, I know I'm going to play awful the next day. Or if I play in the morning versus playing in the afternoon, I sometimes play better. What could be leading me that direction? I have no idea why that shot just did that, and I felt nothing different than the last shot that went straight. I can shoot 10 under par. This is one of my all-time favorites. I could shoot 10 under par on the range, but I can't play on the golf course. I played relatable. On, what day was that? Sunday. I hit every shot on the range perfect, and I didn't hit one on the golf course like that. Why? My driver always goes right, or my driver always goes left. I hit my 3-wood further than I hit my driver, and a lot straighter. Why? What's going on with my driver? I can top a ball, I can flush it, or I could take a divot big enough to resod my front yard in 3 consecutive strokes, and I don't know what the next one's going to be. Sometimes it's little things like my trajectory is really low, or my trajectory is really too high, or sometimes it's I can't get out of the sand. Why can't I get out of the sand? And my chipping around the greens, I'm terrible with that. Sometimes that's an equipment issue. So those are things that golfers find, and that's usually when all those things are starting to happen, or one of those things is starting to happen quite regularly. That's when they would come in to see me. And they would want answers, and they would want solutions, because answers are great, but solutions are better. And so we're going to go through talking about different ways of getting, quote, the solution, and what are some of the pros and some of the cons of going those directions.
Perfect. Now, let's dig into our first subject, and that is going to a big box store and buying a box of golf clubs. Now, one of the pros being buying a box of golf clubs is it's fairly inexpensive. And if you're not a avid golfer, you're sort of a weekend warrior, or you're just starting up golf, what are you going to think about buying a box of clubs? Nothing. They're golf clubs. You don't think anything of it. But as far as moving forward in the game of golf, you don't want to configure your golf swing to clubs that aren't necessarily the best.
And usually what happens, Josh, is people don't configure or change their swing to match the clubs. They swing the way they're going to swing, and the clubs just don't allow them to have success. For instance, most of the time, if you buy, 13 clubs in a box, generally they're going to be heavy. If they're graphite shafts, they're still going to be on the heavy side. If they're steel shafts, they're definitely going to be on the heavy side. When you're talking about consistency from club to club, probably not there, which is kind of sometimes why I can hit some and I can't hit others if that's how you purchased your clubs. Another issue is just the overall, like, drivers. The driver heads are usually made of an aluminum alloy, which has some titanium in it. So they'll say it's a titanium driver, which they're not lying, because there is titanium in it, but it's not designed like a traditional major company's driver head. It's a very simple, very generic, very cost-effective head, because again, you're getting 13 of these for $300. They're not spending an awful lot on the parts. So those are some of the biggest things. Sometimes you even run into heads that are made out of zinc. Now I know the average golfer, I take zinc for to stay healthy. Well, but golf clubs, you don't want zinc golf clubs. They don't help you to stay healthy. But what they do tend to do is snap, like part of the head. And I got a golf club sitting here. This part of the head and this part of the head separate. Well, there's nothing you can do for that. That you can't glue them together. There's nothing you're going to do. Now you have a broken club. And sometimes what you'll find in those clubs, the lengths might be a little bit long if you're using the graphite shafted version, because the swing weight would be too low otherwise. So again, you have to understand, if that's going to be the answer to, I'm not happy with what's happening and this is my next choice, you have to understand that chances are you're going to end up not being happy, and eventually that savings is going to end up maybe going into the garage sale over the weekend, which is maybe how you got the clubs that you were playing with already, or you went to Goodwill and got some clubs.
So you bring up garage sales. Kind of brings us into our next subject. What about buying used clubs? What do you think about used golf clubs?
The first thing is if a golf club is really working, why would you get rid of it? So usually I tell my customers the same. The first thing you have to understand about a used club is somebody else couldn't hit it either. So what makes you think you're going to hit it? Again, I understand golfers. Golfers like things that are less expensive. But sometimes going too less expensive simply means I'm going to spend more money later when the less expensive stuff that I'm buying doesn't work and I'm not satisfied. Sometimes the clubs have been altered and you don't know how they've been altered. For instance, I was playing with a gentleman on Sunday, and his driver, I was surprised, was 44 and a half inches long, which is a little tiny bit longer than my driver. And I was like, wow, that driver is usually 45 and 3/4. And he said, well, the guy said he thought it had been cut down a little. Well, that's not a little, that's a lot. He put a jumbo grip on it for the guy, before he sold it. So I figured the swing weight had to be around B9, B8. This guy was like a baseball player, big, strong, young guy, huge club head speed, and the ball could go anywhere because he couldn't feel it. And he was thinking it was him. And I was like, no, I'm surprised you've hit a couple of good ones. And that's sometimes the problem with used clubs. Sometimes I had a guy recently I was playing with. He bought some used clubs and he found out his used clubs were 1 inch over length. Well, here's my height. I'm 5'9". And he couldn't, it was like, do you think that could be why I hit him fat sometimes and then thin him? I said, well, you thin them because you get tired of hitting them fat. So you pull out of the shot in your effort not to hit it fat. And if you can time it right, maybe that will work. But usually it's not the best way to play. Sometimes, if you're, looking for a new wedge, you want to try something different, bounce-wise. Used clubs, I can understand doing that. But to go get a set of used clubs, I used to have people come in and, show me their store, their internet sale used clubs that they got. And, unfortunately, sometimes if it's an internet used club, I'd have to explain to them, that's a knockoff. What do you mean it's a knockoff? Well, that's not the red that Callaway uses. Callaway uses a different color red. Or those, I've even seen knockoff grips, the multi-compound grips. They'd come in and I go, those are knockoffs. Well, how do you know that? Because the color is not the same. A graphite design shaft that normally would cost $300 if you bought it from us at the store. I got it for $47.95. Well, there's a good reason why you got it for $47.95. It's a knockoff. And you need to understand when you're doing something, buying used, buying it online like that, there's sometimes a problem. Sometimes you can be lucky. I remember one guy came in, I got 8 rifle shafts, and they're the right length for my clubs. Can you put them in? And I put them on the table, and they started rolling across the table, and 3 of them went boom, boom, boom as they rolled. I held them up. These aren't straight. So somebody pre-bent them for you. So that's the big issues when I see used clubs. Every once in a while you find something and it's wonderful, but there are a lot of pitfalls.
So now that we got into used clubs and you kind of brought up online, buying things online, what about custom fitting online? I know a lot of places provide an online fitting now. In your all honest opinion, how accurate do you think those actually are? Or is it just a marketing scheme to get people to use their website and use their fitting technology?
Well, my experience, and I don't go to those websites all that often to see what they're doing and how they've changed things. But in my past experience, I would have friends who would want to, have me fit them. And we've only played maybe 50 or 60 rounds of golf together, so I know their swing pretty well. And I tell them, without you hitting a ball, without you being able to try this and that, without me getting to see what's happening, I can probably get you about 75% of the way to fit. Now, that's with me having already played with them a number of times, knowing what their strengths, knowing what their weaknesses are, having seen them hit different clubs. I can get 75% of the way there. Without that information, without ever watching you swing, I might as well have a dartboard. Oh, that shaft is the one we need to use because it came up, I hit that spot on the dartboard. If somebody is doing a wrist to floor measurement or telling you to measure, to your fingertips to the floor, run away because it has no indication on what kind of an athletic move I make. If I did my wrist to floor measurements, my clubs would be about 3/4 of an inch shorter. I play standard length clubs. I have no legs. I'm 5'9", and I have a 28-inch inseam. So my hands hang pretty close to the ground because my torso is about 6'3", and my arm span is a little bit longer. So it's wrist to floor measurements. No, Sometimes they'll tell you, okay, you stand with this, holding at this angle. Well, again, I have a hard time explaining to somebody how to measure a club. I don't know how you fit somebody online. Unless you have done all the work, you have gone and hit hundreds of balls of, using different clubs and stuff, and you kind of already have a good guess because you've gotten that information. But just to go and fill out a sheet, there's a couple of companies I still get emails telling me about how I can get all these wonderful clubs from them, and they, I can get 3 of these free if I do this and this. Again, my recommendation: run away. I used to reshaft those a lot when people would go, I can't hit these, and I was custom fit. Well, no, you weren't. You were online and you filled out a questionnaire.
Mm-hmm. So let's turn back now. We're still in the subject of online. Forget custom fit online. How about ordering online through a company website?
Okay. Again, the big thing you have to understand, there's no standards in golf. I did a quick cursory look at 3 or 4 major companies, and none of them agree on swing weight. None of them agree on how long the club should be for, say, a 6-iron. Then they get into, do you want this upright? I used to laugh at when people would come in. Yeah, I think I'm going to need these half a degree down. I go, half a degree down from what? Well, standard. There is no standard. So am I taking that from a 62 degree 6-iron? Are we talking a 61 degree 6-iron? Are you talking 61 and a half degree 6-iron? How long is the club going to be? Because that affects how much the lie angle is effectively changed. I don't know. Well, okay. So trying to do that online, especially when you're going from, I always played brand A and I'm going to now go to brand B. Well, all the information you know about brand A does not apply to brand B. You don't have that option. Other issues that you run into, I don't know how you buy something and you've never hit it. It would be like custom ordering a suit and pants and having them custom fit to your length, and you're going to do it all yourself by telling them what to make. I wouldn't know where to begin. I look weird in a suit because, again, my legs are so short, but my upper body is big. And when you put my jacket on, it looks like it's down to my knees. Well, I'm sure there's a way of avoiding that. I don't know what that is. So how do I tell somebody else to make it that way for me? So being from San Diego County, ADS Golf, I would get people all day long, I have a buddy who works over at such and such, and he said he can use his expenses, he gets so much expense money to buy golf clubs that, so I just need to know what the specs are. I don't know, what clubs you getting? I can't tell you though. I can tell you what you seem to like to hit. I can give you that information, but they don't offer those shafts. So what are you going to do? I was online the other day and there were a lot of clubs where you had 2 options of shafts. And in fact, I went through one company's website. I could not order a set of irons knowing everything I need to know about my clubs. Because 1, they don't ask about swing weight. And 2, they didn't offer anything near the weight of my shafts. So what do? So there's an issue with even going to their websites unless you're replacing something that was stolen and you know exactly what you had before and they still offer that club. I guess you could do that. But other than that, I would have I have more questions than happy thoughts.
So what about, since we're past the topic of getting fit online and ordering online, let's go to something like going to a fitting setter or an original equipment manufacturer, getting clubs through them, or even like a fitting day at, let's say, your local country club, they have fitting days, or a golf course, they have
Right.
companies go and they bring the truck full of their clubs and they let people test them and they fit them to just their clubs. What do you think about that?
Yep. Well, again, things that you need to be thinking about whenever you're going to a fitting. Are your clubs that you're currently hitting, are they going to be analyzed? Because if you're coming to me, I need to know what you have, and I'm going to be figuring out how does that affect what you do. If I don't know what you have, I can't figure out why things are happening the way they're happening. I need to be thinking about, do you get to, if you never get to hit your irons again. I used to have somebody, you come in and we'd get fit. And so you're warming up first, and I let you hit, 8-10 balls, have you do more stretches and stuff like that than hitting balls. But get you used to the environment. And then I've already analyzed your clubs. And I did that while you were stretching. I was getting some numbers. Watched you hit some clubs, looking at TrackMan results, getting all that information. Start going somewhere. Go to club A, and you hit it, and you go, oh, I like that. I like that a lot better. I'm going to hand you back your club first and say, I want you to swing yours again and tell me, what do you notice is different? So, because I want to make sure that we're affecting a change, that it's not a random happenstance, something happened and you hit one well. You're going to hit multiple shots, but I want you to experience and figure out, well, I like this better than this because of this. And as you're telling me that information, you might not be able to pinpoint it. I've had people tell me things like, the shaft feels fat. I have no idea what that means, but I sat there trying to figure out what they meant by that. And for them, it felt unresponsive. Oh, okay. So you need to be hitting your clubs, having them analyzed. That's our starting point. And then we're going to go back to that so that we can confirm, yes, I'm liking this better than that. If they have you hit more than 50 balls, run away. Because if you hit 50 shots on the golf course, full swings, you're having a really bad day.
That's a good point.
So all I'm doing at that point is finding out, when you're playing 36 holes, what will work on the back nine. I used to limit my golfers, first 30, 35 swings I would give you, and I was mean. I would stop and tell you stupid stories and everything else as we're going through this fitting, because I don't want you to develop a rhythm. That's the guy who shoots 10 under on the range. He develops a rhythm. It's like, reach down, get the ball, put the ball down, take my stance, take the swing, and I do it over and over and over in the same rhythm. And I can start to get used to hitting shots, because all I'm doing is I am doing it in rhythm. But we don't get to play golf that way. I played 4 hours and 20 minutes the other day at Las Colinas. That was like 3 weeks and a day to me, because during the summer we were playing 2 hour and 5 minute rounds. That took some, that's different than just hitting balls. So you gotta, and if they want you to, I've had people tell me, yeah, we hit about a large bucket and then a medium bucket during the fitting. Run away. I mean, you should, unless you're shooting like in the low 300s for 18 holes, you shouldn't be hitting that many shots. Nothing good we're not finding out anything good. Sometimes we would hit more than my limit of 50 total shots, but it wasn't to fit. Now it was more, you wanted to just swing and hit ball. Okay, whatever. You can hit balls.
No, that's a great point. That's a
things
great point.
Like, if they don't talk to you about swing weight, or how does that club head feel? Do you have enough club head feel? If they don't talk about that, run away. If they're just taking static measurements, run away. If they're talking about bending the clubs, oh, yeah, we got to bend those to be 1 degree up. I never bent a club for an individual until they had played 5 rounds of golf. They were welcome to come back. They were welcome to come back repeatedly. But I don't bend a club until you've seen it out on the golf course. Because if you really stop and think, how many flat level lies do you get around? Not too many. So what I want to find out is, first of all, I want you hitting it, because I've also watched golfers, you have that little lie board there, and if a golfer missed the lie board the first time and picked it clean, I knew the second time the lie board was flying into the net. And it was going to be in 2 pieces or more, because they weren't going to miss it the second time. Well, that's not a golf swing. And a lot of times people would try to adjust themselves. They would hold their hands way low, and then they would hit shots. I go, you do that on the golf course? You hold your hands that low? Oh, yes, all the time. Well, according to that, it needs to be 3 degrees flat. Well, I need you to bend it 3 degrees flat. Please, I need playing in a tournament, a scramble, and I want to win. Okay. Bend it 3 degrees flat. They come back in the next day. Everything was going left. Starting off left and going left. Not hooking, just starting left, going left with my wedges. Well, yeah, that's because let's watch you hit it again. Okay, you're standing completely different. You didn't stand like that on the golf course. What you showed me was not real. I want you to go to the golf course. And what we would do is we would bend each club individually after you would swing. We would be watching. We would be looking at all the different things that we needed to know for bending. We'd bend say the 6 iron. Now let's go to the 7 iron. And if somebody is worrying about the bend on their 3 wood, the lie angle is not that important. It's most important with their most lofted clubs. So that's another issue that you want to stay away from.
So I hate to interrupt
if you go to a ping...
Let's talk about, there's no standards in golf. I just wanted to go back, because you brought up something earlier, and this kind of goes in with they just hand you clubs, right? Let's say, for example, you're getting fitted at a place and the guy hands you club A. They're both 6 irons. The guy gives you club A, you hit it an X amount of yards. You hit 5 balls with that. And then they go, here, take club B. And you also hit an X amount of yards, but it's higher than club A. It's further. They hit 5 balls, but then he sells you on club B because you hit it further. However, if you were to look at the lofts, they're completely different, but they don't know that.
Right. Yep. Exactly. Yeah. If they don't tell you the why, run away. I always explain to my customers why they hit this one better than that. You're looking at where's the impact being made, and you're looking at the loft differences. You're looking at, all those, some of the head designs. There were some heads designed with faces more like a driver, where there was a slight deflection in the face. And so the ball would, the whole idea of trampolining is not to shoot the ball off. It's so that the ball smushes less onto the face, loses less energy, and then can rebound off the face. Well, there are irons that are designed that way. So I would always explain, this is what's happening. This is why it's happening. Now you have to decide, do I want to pay for that or not pay for that? That's a you thing. I'm not going to tell you that. You need to understand that they are there trying to sell you something. I can honestly say, as a club fitter, I never sold anything. I simply showed you answers to your questions, your problems. Sometimes I would give customers the answer. We could do this with your shaft. We could change your shaft and keep this head. We might have to put some lead tape on the backside of the head because of the weight issues. We could do this. We could do this. It's totally up to you. And, some golfers said, I like the cheap way. Cool. I like the brand new clubway. Cool. But you need to know the why. If they don't give you the answer to why you're hitting it further, then it's, I would sit there and play dumb customer at different golf stores and watch, somebody going through a fitting. Oh yeah, you hit that club 10 yards further. It's a better club. And I'm thinking to myself, do you say anything about the fact that that's 4 degrees stronger loft than the other one, which is one club? And, part of the reason why it went further is because it rolled further. How many irons do you buy because they roll better? So, yeah, that idea of standard, and that's like when you go to a single company, you have to understand, I am limited. They are only going to make the things that they make. If those things don't work for me, why am I here? And they will always find something that's working for you. Now, is it working as well as another thing? I don't know.
All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap up the end of episode 2 of Club Fitting Chronicles. Hopefully you guys got some more insight on buying clubs and how people buy clubs. Next episode, we're going to talk about our next subject. We're going to touch a little bit on the original equipment manufacturer clubs being fit to you, fitting days. I think that's a great topic to get into because a lot of it is marketing. Yep. And that's one of the things we're trying to advocate for is to make sure that you play your best golf without getting hooked on to the fishing line that this club is the best and this club is the best for everyone. Everybody is different, and we just want to spread awareness on that. And once again, if you guys have any questions or feedback for us, do not hesitate to give us an email at clubfittingchronicles@gmail.com. And we will get back to you as soon as possible and possibly in the next episode of the podcast.
Yeah, and don't forget to subscribe to us, and we appreciate that. It just makes my morning go better before I head off to school.
You're still in school, Gene?
Thanks, man. Josh. Yeah, I'm still in 6th grade. I got to figure out a way to get through 6th grade math.
How long have you been on spring break, though? That's the real question.
I'm not as long as you. I was only on break for 1 week.
All right. Thank you so much, Gene. I enjoyed this talk with you. And hopefully next time we could clear up some questions for our listeners. Hope everybody has a good day. Thank you.
Sounds good. Take care. See you in 2 weeks.